What's going on? Welcome to my next video. In this video I'm going to be drawing hands, and I'm going to start off doing the basics of drawing the hand, and then after we get finished drawing the basics, then I'm going to get into using Figurosity to draw the hands from different angles. So right now I'm drawing the base of the hand with the thumb, and usually when I'm drawing hands I'll draw the base first, and then I'll make the circle for the thumb. That way I can kind of get all the big shapes in before I start working with the small shapes. So I'm doing both ends of the hand, the front side and then also the back side. And then right now I'm putting in the rest of the thumb. And usually when you're doing the back side, the reason why I have just not the whole circle is only because you're not seeing the whole thing when you're doing the back of the hand. So right now I'm getting in the fingers. And working in fingers, sometimes you can kind of go in with cylinders, or you can use, sometimes I'll draw just the tips of the fingers and then add in the rest of the cylinders when you start getting into more complex shapes. So right now I'm working in the index fingers and the middle finger and ring finger, trying to get the shapes in. As you see how I'm drawing the tips of the fingers, or that first section of the finger, and it's kind of a way of knowing where the rest of the fingers are placed when you're drawing it in, because each finger will all have 3 parts, and I think the thumb only has 2 parts when you're bending it. And as long as you know which parts to bend when you're bending the finger, then it'll be easy to pose the fingers in different positions. So right now I'm just working in the darkening the lines. I'm adding in the different sections. And you can do sections with the lines, or you can do sections with 3 cylinders, and you're bending the cylinders, as long as you know how to bend the cylinders in perspective when you're bending the fingers. So right now I'm getting the thumb in, I'm putting all the detail lines and the creases. I'm not getting too detailed with this. I'm mainly just doing this just to show you kind of a general idea of how the hand is supposed to be placed as far as where the fingers go, because all the fingers don't align perfectly even. Each one has different sizes, where you know how the middle finger is the longest finger, and then down to the index and the pinky, which is the shortest. So now going into doing the back of the hand. So I'm getting the thumb in, working some more details, and this is pretty much the same as the front side. The only difference is the thumb on showing the back of the hand is hidden in the front, and that's the only difference. But overall it's pretty much the same thing. Just bringing the details and the little fingernails in there. And sometimes when I'm drawing fingernails, I won't draw the whole thing usually, because it's kind of like you just draw a piece of it, and then the brain of people that's looking at it will just trigger and tell them that, you know, it's a full fingernail, even though you're just drawing pieces of it, unless you're, depending on if you're drawing a cartoon or something like that. I'm working a little more details. Now I'm going to start speeding it up and using Figurosity to look at the hands from different angles, and these will be a little bit more difficult positions, but you should still kind of be able to still see how it's being put together. And so right now I'm working in the hand, the general, and now where you see I'm adding those dots there. Now those dots that I'm adding in is kind of a way to help me place and know where the fingers are. You see how I'm adding the dots, and I'm making a line to where I know the finger is going to go, and then I'm adding the tips in at the end points, and then I'm just filling it in as I go along, adding in the rest of the lines. You can work this. You can do this with cylinders, with with 3 cylinders per finger, and you're working it in, or you can do it the way that I have here, where it's kind of just you're outlining the shapes and you're trying to get the form and the detail in. Not getting too detailed with it. I'm just getting the general form of the hand when you're just drawing and you're practicing. Make sure you get in the arm. I use a little ink just to kind of outline the shape a little bit more, just so that you can see it a little bit better. Because I've always like working in blue and then adding inks in there later on. And knuckles. Okay, now with this shape, this one is try to pick like the most difficult ones, and this one is kind of like, it's kind of going into perspective a little bit. And as you see, I added the 4 dots as usual, and I'm kind of making one long cylinder for the fingers, and then I'm later on separating it into different cylinders going forward. And you see that I'm kind of I'm making the lines, separating it, but I'm rounding the lines out to form the cylinders as if they're like attached to each other. And you have to make it look like a sense of perspective, so you have to kind of line up and measure each finger to make sure that each finger looks like it's shorter than the other, or else it's gonna throw it off and you're not really gonna see it in that position. Now this one the same way, make it a base shape. I add in the thumb. I add in the dots for the fingers. Always add 4 dots. Now this one is a little more difficult because of the positioning. But so I did with this one is I started with the tips first. So I added each tip, and then I started working my way, creating the cylinders from the tips up to the base shape. I mean, it's a little difficult to do, but you can just, with practice, it'll come pretty easy. But sometimes when you're drawing hands and you're drawing a difficult position, sometimes you have to adjust your style or adjust your drawing method to match whatever pose you're trying to do. And even when you're posing figures, you have to sometimes draw the figure one way, and then you're using a certain method, but then when you're drawing a figure in perspective, or you're drawing it from the up view or down view, you may adjust it and draw using a different style just to get that right pose or that right shape in. Now to the next one, starting the same way, that base shape, get that base in. I drew a little bit of the arm, and then I added the thumb. And I always work the thumb in first, so I know where the thumb is before I add the 4 dots for the fingers. Now I'm the same with the other one. I'm adding the tips in first, looking at the picture. I'm trying to see where the tips are, and then I'm kind of working my way down into the figure, creating the cylinders for each of the 3 cylinders that forms a finger. This would be considered a difficult position too, but as long as you follow the method and practice using it, and it'll be real easy drawing the hand. And working in shapes, getting into ink. Just to form it a little bit more, add a little more detail in there. I think now with this one I did a little simplified shape, the type of hand you normally would see, creating the base of the hand, and forming the dots for the fingers, and then working your way down, also creating the cylinders. And as long as you follow the method each time, it will it'll work itself out. And that's it for this video. And if you like what you see, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and take care.